Alright, so it is Wednesday, July 21st, 2021, and it is the Wednesday before the release of Masters of the Universe Revelation. And I've been looking forward to this for a while, though I will say that some skepticism has cropped up in the last few months with all of the social media bickering and the press releases and some of the conflicting information and Kevin Smith being caught in some lies, and there's some issues there. But really what I want to do with this video is kind of go over my expectations in a sense as a pre-review, as a record of what I'm expecting going in before I actually watch it, and then I'll probably record for lack of a better term, a review afterwards. And so what I need to do first is, let me start at the beginning. I'm going to try to keep this short, but I can't make any promises. So I grew up with He-Man. I was a He-Man baby. I was born in '82, the year that the toys hit the shelves. The TV show came out the year after. I grew up on the cartoon. I watched She-Ra. Of course, I watched the Masters of the Universe movie. I've read the comics. I really loved the 2000X story. I even watched the New Adventures of He-Man, which stands up less than the Filmation cartoon. It's a rough series to watch. There were a lot of creative choices there that I think were not good. But there are things to like about it, so don't get me wrong, it's not a complete loss. After the 2000X storyline, there was a big wave of, collector's toys and whatnot, and that was cool. I'm not a collector. I break everything I touch. If you're familiar with Zakk Wylde's story about his Grail guitar, when he got that returned to him, he's like, yeah, I'm going to take this back out on the road because guitars are meant to be played, not sit on a shelf. And I kind of feel that way about toys, so it's only a matter of time before this He-Man breaks. I'm not really a collector of things. And then we got the DC run, the more recent DC run on the He-Man property in the comics, and those were fantastic. Those might be my favorite iteration so far because they kind of take all of the best pieces from all the previous iterations and put them together in one package, and I thought it was just an absolutely fantastic comic run. It was also awesome to see, both times that they did crossovers with the DC universe. It was awesome to see He-Man kill Superman twice. That just does it for me. And then, I even watched the new She-Ra cartoon, and while it was not fantastic, it did get better as it went along. There's plenty to criticize there, but it is what it is. And then, so now we've been riding the hype train for 2 years for this new series, and of course the other one that's going to be coming out that's more directed towards current kids, whereas Revelation is directed towards us older fans. And what I really want to do is kind of set some expectations and address some of the concerns. So, like, the number one concern about the current series is what they've done with Teela. So I'm a big Teela fan. Teela was such a great character. She's probably where my love of strong women comes from. She was kind of the original fit chick. We always saw her not just being great with weapons, but also engaging in all sorts of gymnastic acrobatics. She was shown as being very strong for a normal human, as opposed to a superhuman like He-Man. And they showed her to be a very competent ally. And she was a very prominent character in the original series. So, that being said, what they have potentially done, I have not seen it yet, what they've potentially done with the character, aside from the aesthetic changes, is the reviews that have come out have basically said they've put her into a forward role, but almost kind of at the expense of He-Man, at the expense of even Adam. And there's a huge difference between an ensemble cast of characters having kind of peaks and valleys. So as a good example, Babylon 5, big ensemble cast, there's no main character, but there's a lot of core characters who have episodes or arcs. they kind of focus on them while other characters take a bit of a backseat, and then they just swap, and there's this kind of sine wave thing going where different characters take turns in the spotlight, and you get this really cool effect. Now in Masters of the Universe, there is a main character. He-Man is the main character now. Pretty much since the original Filmation cartoon, all of it's just been called Masters of the Universe, not He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. So you can make an argument that they've gone more towards the ensemble side of things as opposed to main character with an ensemble entourage. But he's still the main character. And if they are pushing Teela at the expense of He-Man, that's the wrong way to do it. Now, we'll see on Friday, but the early reports are kind of saying that's kind of what has happened. IGN specifically said that, and otherwise their review was extremely favorable. So that's maybe a little bit of a concern. A lot of people have complained about how muscular Teela is. Look, in the original, she was an athletic badass. So for her to continue to be an athletic badass but with more muscles, it's not a big deal. We live in a post-CrossFit world where CrossFit chicks are a dime a dozen, girls with muscles are a dime a dozen. There are entire swaths of the internet covered in chicks with biceps and abs. It's great. So I don't have a problem with that. It actually makes sense for the character, and it really doesn't diminish her as a woman. Now, the other thing is some people are calling it queer baiting, where they're not really saying that Teela and Andra are a couple, but they're making it obvious in the subtext. If that's true, now Kevin Smith denied it, but if that's true, then that's kind of a betrayal on the character, because in the original cartoon, and they are saying it's a spiritual successor to the Filmation cartoon, that's why I keep going back to it, Teela was very clearly being set up to be a love interest for Adam, and clearly had a crush on He-Man. I mean, it was totally the Clark Kent Superman and Lois Lane thing, except Teela is not useless like Lois Lane. So, in that case, right, that would be kind of a switch on the character, and that's not good. Now, if some of the things that I'm thinking are happening, maybe it could just be one of those, rebellion stage kind of things. But I don't want to get into that. The point is, I don't have a problem with, LGBTQ characters or whatever if they are organically meant to be part of the story. But when you kind of shoehorn it in or bolt it on, it's not the right way to do it. And then, of course, there's the aesthetic choices, right? They completely get rid of Teela's classic white and gold look for this more Mad Maxy post-apocalyptic kind of look. Not a fan of that. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it's just not great. And then on top of that, the haircut. I can't get past the haircut. I hate that haircut in the real world. I hate it in cartoons. It has become a trope of its own. It's like they take the classic Karen haircut and do a punk thing with it where they shave the sides off. I mean, it's we'll call it punk Karen, and it's terrible. It is absolutely terrible. It's an awful aesthetic choice. It's completely not necessary for the character, and it plays into the stereotype of women have a traumatic experience, so they do something drastic, like chop off all their hair. Way to play into stereotypes. So, not a fan of that. All right, then of course, other concerns. People have spilled the beans that they killed off Orko. Kevin Smith specifically has been quoted as talking about killing off Orko. They make him a more relatable, likable, lovable character, and then kill him off so that people get, he said, angry. Well, not a fan of that either. I really, really like the dark turn they did on Orko in the comic books a few years back. But just making a character likable so you can kill him off and make people angry, that just feels manipulative. That's not good storytelling. That's just, let's see what we can get away with. That's stupid. And the original Orko, yes, maybe a lot of people didn't like it, but the original Orko had his place in the original series. I didn't have a problem with him. I actually have more of a problem with Cringer talking than I do with Orko existing. That's one of the things I really liked about the 2000X series is that Cringer and Battlecat didn't talk. I really don't like talking animals. And the fact that they kept the talking animal thing, now of course it's spiritual successor to Filmation, so of course they're going to keep the talking Battlecat, but not a huge fan of the talking animals thing. But hey, that was in the original, so whatever. So I guess that's kind of enough about the concerns. I already discussed the race swapping thing. It's just lazy storytelling. There's no two ways about it. It's lazy storytelling. First, it's bad storytelling when you take a major character and race swap them, because then it's clearly just tokenism. But then when you take an unimportant character like Andra and race swap them, and you go, well, a character didn't matter, race is not important to them, then you're generally telling people that, well, we race swap them because race doesn't matter to this character. So which is it? Is it a very important thing or is it a very not important thing? It's just lazy storytelling is what it is. It's really, really lazy storytelling. So that's the issue there. So really all that's left is to just kind of set some expectations. So one of the things we have to recognize is that almost never is anything, well, never is anything above reproach, right? There's always something to criticize in every work, especially artistic works. There's always going to be something criticism worthy. So automatically, it is not above criticism. Secondarily, though, almost never is anything 100% wholly terrible, except for Tim Burton movies. And we have to understand that the fact that even if there are things that we hate about it, there might be some things to like and appreciate about it. And as a He-Man fan, I'm going to watch it, and I am going to try to appreciate the things that are worth appreciating. There are things in every iteration of He-Man that I can complain about, every single one of them. There are some things that I can sit there and go, I really, really wish they didn't do that. I hated the 2000X asterisk symbol. The H&M symbol that they're using for this one is much better, and it's more accurate to the original toy line. So much better choice there. I hated that asterisk symbol. It was an awful choice. And I didn't like the tech sword that they had in that. I really liked the classic sword. But He-Man's had other swords before. So, that it is what it is there. It's not like He-Man's never changed his sword. So, again, there's going to be things to criticize. There's going to be things to like. There's going to be a lot of things to potentially dislike. And I'm one of the few that I'm not a huge fan of Powerhouse Animation. I'm not. Their work is okay, but there are some artistic choices. The animation itself is fine. Like, the movement, the animation and art are two different things, right? And so the movement quality, the way that they animate the action, the movement, all that is fine. My issue is actually with the art style. There is a particular art style. Every animation studio kind of has an art style that you have to follow, and their art style is just not my favorite. So there's issues with that, but again, it's probably not a deal breaker. I just think they have trouble with faces. I think they make some really, really ugly faces, like on all characters. So yeah. So anyway, all in all, I am remaining hopeful, but my skepticism has grown. And after seeing some of the early, press reviews from people who have actually seen it already, that skepticism has remained. That skepticism has not abated. So, I'm going to get this posted up, and I will probably review again on, Friday afternoon after I've had a chance to watch the series through. It's the first 5 episodes. It won't take long, and we'll see if it's everything good and bad that people have made out, and we'll make some adjustments, right? So hopefully that has set some expectations, and I will catch you guys on the flip side. Good journey.